Hi everyone, it's me Roselyn, and on this video I wanted to share the experience of the other applicant regarding to her K1 adjustment of status interview. I have a separate video on K1 adjustment of status interview experience under sputum and living with in-laws. And also I have a separate video on K1 and K2 adjustment of status interview experience. So if you are under K1 and K2, check that video, and if you are under K1 adjustment of status and you are under sputum and living with in-laws, you can check that video so you will have an idea what are the questions that the officer will ask you, what are the documents that the officer will ask you. Okay, so on this video it is also a K1 adjustment of status interview, but the difference is the officer interviewed the petitioner and the beneficiary separately. So now we have an idea, not all the time the officer will interview the beneficiary and the petitioner at the same time in one room. So there is a chance that the officer will interview both of you separately. So be ready for that, okay? So let's start. So she said that the officer called the beneficiary first, and the beneficiaries were an oath, and the officer took the fingerprint and took a photo of the beneficiary, and then asked for the beneficiary's birth certificate. And the interview lasted for 40 minutes, and that's too long, 40 minutes, but she said 40 minutes. Okay, so these are the questions that the officer asked the beneficiary. So what is your name? What is your spouse's name? How old is your spouse? Where did you meet? What did the two of you have in common? Where was your first date? Where was the wedding held? Who were the bridesmaid or groomsmen? Where did you go for the honeymoon? Who take care of the finances? When is your spouse's birthday? Have you ever been on vacation together? Do you attend church? Have you met each other's families? How often do you see each other's families? When was the last time you saw them? Who is your spouse's employer? How long has your spouse been working there? And then the officer asked the beneficiary the photo album if they have, and all the pictures. And also the beneficiary signed that the interview is already done. So after the beneficiary's interview, the officer called the petitioner for the petitioner's interview. And so the petitioners were an oath, and these are the questions for the petitioner. And she said the petitioner's interview lasted for 20 minutes. Okay, so these are the questions. So what is your name? What is your spouse's name? How old is your spouse? When did your relationship turn romantic? How long was it before you decided to get married? How many people attended your wedding? Did each of your parents attend? When is your anniversary? Do you plan on having children? Do you have any children from previous marriages? How many brothers and sisters does your spouse have? What are their names? Does your spouse have any niece or nephews? Do you have mutual friends? What your spouse's best friend's name? What is your spouse's position? Where did your spouse work prior? And that is a lot of question too. And it only took 20 minutes. Okay, that's what she said. And then so after the officer interviewed the petitioner, the officer called the beneficiary. Okay, so that's the time that both of them is in one room. Okay, and then after that, the officer informed them that the officer will give them a 2 years conditional green card, and then they will renew the green card to apply for 10 years. So that's the questions and the documents asked for them. And for me, because I don't have an interview during my adjustment of status, but for me, I rather wanted that the officer will interview us at the same time in the same room, because I will know what's happening inside, what the officer questions to my husband, and what the what the officer reaction to whatever answer of my husband. At least I know, I can hear it, I can see the reaction, but if the officer will ask both of you, if the officer will interview both of you separately, you don't have any idea. Right? So at least now we know that possible that the officer will interview both of you separately. So be ready. Okay, so I hope I help you out. I give you an idea about the questions and documents that the officer might ask you, and yeah, be ready. So yeah, so if you have questions, clarifications, please feel free to comment on my video, and I will include a text file of all the questions that the officer asked them. Okay, so have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.